Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now resume consideration of the estimates for the Department of Finance. Questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you to the Minister for giving us this opportunity today. I'm going to start off today focusing on school taxes and taxation generating revenue for funding schools in our province. It's something that is of high importance in my constituency, and I know for constituencies across our province, it's something that Manitobans are concerned about, not knowing where the increases are going to end for school taxes. So we've seen a 17% increase to school taxes in some school divisions. And in the Winnipeg school divisions, homeowners are seeing a $200 to $332 increase to their tax bills, and a much higher increase in some other communities across our province. Homeowners were paying $150 million more last year and another $180 million more according to the Premier's spring budget this year. So many Manitobans are bearing the effects of the change in school tax structure. I had served 12 years myself on local municipal council, and I know that municipalities are at the forefront of the school tax questions each fall. So can the minister today tell us how much more school taxes may be going up for homeowners this year, and two-part to that question, how he's going to safeguard Manitobans to see an end to the tax increases that school divisions across our province have been able to impose on property owners.
The Honorable First Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome to the committee. It's good to have an opportunity to talk about a lot of the good work that our government is doing when it comes to either making life more affordable or investing in education. So the question is focused around education taxes, the school taxes, and I think this is an important moment to talk a bit about education investments and where we're at overall as a province. And of course, very proud that in our last budget, our government brought forward $67 million in new investments to support our school system. That represented an over 4% increase in the level of funding to school divisions in Manitoba. And that builds on a prior budget increase, which again was far in excess of the rate of inflation. And those two increases that we provided were unfortunately coming after many, many years where Manitobans had a government that was not investing adequately in education. And in fact, we know year over year, school divisions were not getting increases that reflected their costs. And I recall, challenging discussions with school divisions about some of what the outcomes of those funding cuts and what that meant. In St. James, it meant, the need to get rid of an international baccalaureate program, which was helping our best and brightest in West Winnipeg to have opportunities that may not otherwise be afforded to them in our corner of the province. That's one example of what happened as a result of the underfunding that those divisions experienced after many years of PC cuts to education that left them in a very challenging position. And so fortunately, our government has ensured that school divisions are being funded in a way that reflects their needs, again, in excess of inflation. We know that school divisions, one of their biggest costs are, of course, FTEs. And year over year, those costs were going up, and yet under the last government, they weren't seeing those increased costs being reflected in funding increases to help them do the important work that they do. So that set the stage for, I think, clearly, a real challenge for divisions that I think they were very happy to see our government responded to with some significant changes and increases to the scope of their funding. Of course, beyond that, we responded to another area where the last government had left Manitobans falling behind when it came to education, and that was ensuring that we were investing adequately in helping our young kids to succeed in school. And we know that one of the biggest barriers to kids getting ahead was just simply the lack of access to a nutritious breakfast at the start of the day. And so, we responded to that by bringing in a $30 million universal school nutrition program that now ensures that all kids in Manitoba have the ability to start their day with nutritious food that will help to ensure that they can succeed and become the most that they can be. Again, year over year of us failing to attend to that challenge left a lot of kids falling behind. So really proud of the work that our government did to respond to that and make sure we're supporting those kids to become, again, the best that they can be and to support their success and growth in our education system. Speaking about further investments in our young people and responding to challenges that Manitobans were experiencing after years of being left to fall behind under the former government, childcare. We made some really important investments in not only continuing to grow access to childcare spaces, but extending access to affordable childcare. And we extended $10 a day childcare to be all year round, not just during school days. And what that meant for families, it's going to mean an extra estimated $800 per child. And so that is a significant improvement to the affordability of childcare for those families who rely on that to be able to get to work and help their children develop and grow. So another, I think, really exciting and important investment that we made after years of, again, falling behind under the former government. We're talking about investments in education and broadly, the critic is asking about really what it comes down to is funding for schools. Look, we're not only responding to those core funding lapses, we're not only responding to the lack of support for kids who need it, we're not only responding to the lack of access to all year-round affordable childcare, but we're also making incredibly important commitments to develop new schools. And I was so proud to, along with the Premier and our team, announce 11 new schools that we're going to be developing to make sure kids around the province can get access to the facilities they need, and more to come in my next answer.
The honourable member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I look forward to actually hearing an answer to that question. I'll maybe add to that to make sure that we have complete clarity. My question, Honorable Chair, for the Minister is to elaborate on the funding formula that the Minister foresees bringing forward to Manitobans around school funding, education funding, and the burden on a school tax, municipal school tax. And what I'm getting at with that is that Manitobans are concerned that there is not going to be a ceiling on school division taxation on their property. They're concerned that programs will be available to the neighbors' children and not theirs, because the province has put the burden of taxation onto the individual school divisions. In a constituency like mine, I represent Manitobans that are served by 5 different school divisions. That means that the neighbors' children go to a school within a different division than theirs. Some school divisions are very mindful of representing the tax burden on ratepayers, and therefore haven't increased their rate. Parents and their properties have not seen an increase like we saw in the Hanover School Division, but neighboring school divisions have substantially increased their rate of taxation. So they're concerned that that's going to mean that different services are provided to different children as a result of the tax structure. So could the minister clarify the funding formula and where he foresees that formula settling, so that we can avoid the effects of school divisions setting their rate depending on their own division's budget and not the concerns of all Manitobans?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Chair. So, again, I alluded to this earlier, but I'll repeat it. One of the most important things that we need to ensure here is that our school divisions are adequately funded. And there's an important story here to be told through the level of funding that school divisions received under the former government, whether it's in 2021 when they received a 0.7% overall increase, 21-22 a 1.56, or 22-23 2.92. We can see that year over year, the former government set up a very challenging situation for school divisions where, as I mentioned earlier, school divisions were forced to make tough decisions along the lines of the concerns that the member opposite just raised there about things he hears in his community. Certainly, Manitobans deserve to have access to a great quality education, and their kids deserve good opportunities. But when you fund school divisions at these levels, you can't expect kids to get those opportunities. This is a clear pattern of underfunding that set up a real challenge for school divisions. And unfortunately, that challenge extended not just to the executives within those school divisions, but extended to the kids that they were serving. That's the clear record that the former government has when it comes to providing adequate funding. And so again, how do we minimize the need for local governments like school divisions to go out and raise taxes? How do we ensure that they do that at a minimum level? It's by ensuring adequate funding for school divisions. And that's exactly what our government has sought to do. Again, whether it's through the 67 million new dollars we committed to with our most recent budget, which represented a 4% increase overall, or again, with our previous budget, which once again provided funding that for years had not been provided. So that's the most important piece here, is beginning with and ensuring that school divisions are supported adequately by the provincial government. And I think I'm proud to say that our Premier has been very clear about wanting to make sure that our government delivered on that. And as part of that, deliver on our other broader commitments like the Universal School Nutrition Program, which is signed, sealed, and delivered. We said we were going to do it, and that's a $30 million investment, and we are doing it and showing again that we're placing a significant focus on providing divisions with the dollars that they need. And again, are turning the page in terms of years and years of underfunding that left divisions in a very difficult and challenging place where they weren't able to serve their youth as they needed to. We've turned the page on that unquestionably with adequate levels of core funding that are finally, again, turning the page on many years of underfunding. So, that work beyond proper core funding and how how our government has chosen to approach supporting school divisions. We've also continued to do other important work, as I said, when it comes to education, in relation to, for example, the development of new schools. So we knew that was a major, significant pressure that was, Manitobans were facing and that the last government failed to deliver on. They talked about bringing in new schools, but there was never any budget for actually developing new schools. So, the Manitobans heard about some commitments, but there was actually never really a plan in place. We've done that. We brought forward a plan, and I'm happy to say that we brought a plan that will help to control costs and keep costs to a minimum through the good multi-year planning we did, and through our work to ensure that those schools are designed in a way that there's a standard design that will help to control costs over the next many years, will therefore minimize cost pressures resulting from the development of those new schools. And that's another thing, again, that I'm proud to say our government is focused on, is not only funding school divisions adequately, but also ensuring that as we move forward in getting the job done, in doing what needs to be done to serve students in this province, we're doing it in a way that, again, in terms of that new capital and those new schools, we're doing it in a way that's going to protect the public purse, and that we're going to make sure that those schools are delivered in a way that keeps budgets tight while still ensuring we're meeting the needs of students in those divisions. So again, that reflects the top-level work our government is doing to support keeping costs low for Manitobans, funding school divisions properly after many years of underfunding, and moving forward in a way that ensures we control costs through multi-year planning and doing that good work of budgeting responsibly and delivering for Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you to the Minister for his response. I'm proud to say that was the goal of our previous PC government, is to adequately centrally fund schools across our province. And I'm also proud to say that I've been able to attend grand openings of schools in my constituency that were initiatives under the previous PC government. Unfortunately, with the last year of leadership of our province under NDP direction, we've seen a cut or halt to all schools that were proposed. So no grand openings to attend right now, and many long-term promises, which are okay if we can see them come to fruition. But my concern is that the minister is speaking of central core funding, adequate, as he has stated, adequate central or core funding for education and schools across our province. But homeowners, property owners across our province are seeing significant school tax increases on their property tax roll, and they're concerned where that'll end, like I had stated in my last question. So if the minister is saying that the path forward is adequate central funding, does that mean that the NDP government has a goal to adequately fund education centrally, and that will inevitably eliminate property tax funding for school divisions? And the goal of the NDP government in turn would be to centrally fund education and eliminate property taxation for school divisions.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to respond to the question. I just want to start by speaking to something that the member opposite referenced, and I think it's important when we're on the record that we lay facts down. So just in response to his comments, there were absolutely no cuts or halts to any planned school openings, and I'll say that because, again, there were no plans for actual school openings. It was all make-believe. There was no budget. There was no actual specific, appropriation that was focused on enabling the opening or the development or construction of new schools. It really is important when we're here that we speak honestly with Manitobans about, what happened. And I can say without any question that there was no budget allocated for the purpose of building new schools. And so you can't stop something that never started. I am proud, though, that our government actually has done the work and is moving forward with the important work of building new schools. And I'll just maybe take an opportunity, since we're here and talking about schools, to read out the list of 11 new schools that we're planning on developing in the next few years. Devonshire Park School, Prairie Point School, Meadowland School, Brandon Southwest School, Brandon Division Scolaire Franco-Manitobaine School, shout out to Minister for Municipalities, St. Anne Regional High School, Bridgewater Lake School, Nipawin Regional High School, Highland Point School, Winnipeg Northwest High School, and a new Division Scolaire Franco-Manitobaine School in St. Boniface. So you see, we're building schools across the whole province. And that's something that we know we needed to move forward with. And again, I'm proud that we're doing that in a way that demonstrates fiscal responsibility while still moving the needle forward in helping, to ensure that our families in Manitoba have access to great quality schools where they can be proud to send their kids and help their kids to succeed. So, that I think reflects the focus of our government. We continue to invest in education, to do that in a responsible manner. When it comes to the funding schools and funding approaches, one thing I want to highlight that, our government moved quickly to deliver on a commitment that we made, which was to not send checks to millionaires and to instead ensure that, we're funding our education system adequately. We've delivered on that commitment to stop doing that. We did that with our changes to the education and property tax system, again, that are going to ensure that dollars are going to help students succeed. In terms of our government's affordability measure here, look, the $1,500 education property tax rebate is something that we know is going to save significantly greater proportion of Manitobans more money than the former government's approach. And the Department of Finance, the fine folks that are supporting me, have done really good work in looking at what are the impacts of these changes. And what I can tell you is that the $1,600 rebate, once that's in place, will continue to save almost 80% of Manitobans more money than they would have saved under the previous government's education property tax rebate. So that ultimately reflects the facts and where we are. Again, we're focused on ensuring that that hardworking regular Manitobans are getting the help that they deserve. We know that in many instances, especially for low to mid-value homeowners, there's going to be a lot of Manitobans that won't have to pay any school taxes at all, because this approach will see them getting significantly more than they did under the former government's approach. So, you know, again, this shows the focus that our government is bringing on not only reducing costs for Manitobans, especially those who need the help, lower mid-value homeowners, who are going to, in many cases, not have to pay school taxes at all. That's a great thing. And that's building on a lot of other affordability measures our government has taken, focused on helping Manitobans to lower their costs. And so that work continues. Again, you know, in addition to the $1,600 rebate, there's a long list of other affordability measures. We're going to continue to ensure that our schools are funded adequately to do everything we can to support our divisions to do their important work. We're committed to that, and that's what the member opposite and their team can expect from us over the coming years.
The honourable member for Lavarandri.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Unfortunately, that didn't give Manitobans too much clarification, but around school completion under the previous PC government and what has been seen for grand openings under the current NDP government, just for clarification, 14 new schools were completed during the 7.5 years. 9 schools were in the works, which the minister had listed many of those schools that work had been done to see construction start. So now the minister is claiming that those schools are initiatives under their government. Unfortunately, the communities know that that isn't true. So circling back to properly or adequately centrally funding education in our province and what is to be expected for a funding formula. The minister had promised that we would see a new funding formula for education this year. Now we have seen silence. So would the minister be able to clarify maybe what the foreseeable funding formula would look like? And along with that, if education, as the minister claims to be trying to achieve a adequate centrally funded system, why not increased central funding, reducing the need for school division taxation, and eliminating a $1,600 rebate instead of collecting the taxes from the ratepayers unproportionately and then issuing a rebate? Wouldn't it make more sense for an increase to central funding, eliminating the need for school division taxation and the need for a rebate? So would the minister be able to answer that, along with clarity for Manitobans on when we can expect to see a rejuvenated funding formula for education?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thanks to the critic for the question. So, the critic's asking about what our approach is. Our approach is going to be to make sure that we fund education adequately. Again, something that hadn't happened for many years. And I think that's a sort of symptom or reflection of the overall approach that we saw from the last government when it came to funding and supports for all manner of really important social investments and investments that help to move Manitobans ahead. I think it also spoke to their short-sightedness in terms of budgeting and planning, and that short-sightedness in terms of the long-term challenges that they were creating for school divisions through that. But that was in keeping with their failure to plan in a number of respects, and that's something that we saw emerge through the MNP report that was done shortly after we got in. We hired a respected independent accounting firm to come in and do a review of the former government's fiscal planning and the decisions that they made that led to a $2 billion deficit that they left Manitobans with. And what they found, again, and this is something I've shared in the House and I'm happy to share here again today, is that they made decisions that constituted what was characterized by them as, quote, high budgetary risk. And I think that was also reflected in their failure to do any long-term planning. They did not have a long-term vision for how they wanted to move Manitoba forward. And we saw that in all areas of government decision-making, but also when it came to education. They made deep cuts year over year over year that really ultimately impacted kids more than anyone else. And that was in addition to the various things that they tried to accomplish in education. For example, their disastrous attempt at trying to move forward with Bill 64, which was basically unanimously rejected by the entire province. So they failed to do long-term planning. That was reflected in short-term decisions that ended up impacting divisions, creating a lot of challenges. We knew we had to respond to that with adequate funding, and so that's something we focused on. And I'm very proud of the work that's been done by, first of all, my incredible colleague that's now passed, Minister Altamari. We miss him every day. He did amazing work in coming in and helping to start that important work of moving us ahead on education. And of course, that work's now been picked up by our new Minister for Education, who continues to do that important work. Look, there's no question that core funding and increases to it were incredibly important. We've done that. We've invested in Universal Child Nutrition Program that's helping to move our kids ahead. And we're also making other important investments. When I think about, one beautiful portion of the budget here, page 67, talks about some of the important work we're doing when it comes to education and First Nations. And, there's a beautiful quote in here on page 67, education got us into this mess, and education will get us out of it, by Judge Murray Sinclair. And I know that the Premier and our team were really inspired by him and his focus on education, and I think we see that manifest in some of our investments. For example, our recent budget invested further in education and Indigenous excellence, helping to train more language teachers, land-based curriculum, treaty education, an Indigenous academic achievement grant, and Elders and Knowledge Keepers in Schools program. So again, not only are we investing in ensuring divisions have the money they need, we're investing in a universal school nutrition program that's helping to ensure that all kids can succeed. We're investing in new schools. And I can say, the member opposite continues to go back to this statement and trying to suggest that the last government had in any way, any type of a real plan for moving forward. Having something, quote, in the works doesn't really add up to much. There was no budget, and so that equals no plan. So we're getting that done too. And again, we're moving forward with new schools across the entire province, doing that in a way that's fiscally responsible. This is what Manitobans sent us to government because they knew that they could count on us to get the job done. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're proud to be moving forward with better funding for our schools, keeping life affordable, ensuring families have access to the schools they need, ensuring our kids have full stomachs when they start their day. And we're doing all that while lowering education property taxes with our $1,500, now $1,600 education property tax rebates.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I think it's important that Manitobans know that the financial audit that the Minister refers to had substantial error, and the firm themselves had made note that a lot of data was missing from the report provided by the province, and that it didn't include a lot more than public information. But I think the larger concern, I don't want to dwell on this the entire time, and I will move on, but circling back to where the question had started, that communities across my constituency and across the province are seeing that one side of the street, property taxes as a result of school division taxation has seen double-digit increases, while families on the other side of the street may not have seen an increase at all. So moving forward, is the minister prepared to say that finance and education will put a cap on the increase that school divisions are able to impose on property taxes, or that central funding or core funding of education in our province will be brought to a point where school division taxation will no longer be necessary. So can the minister mainly, the main part of the question, commit to putting a cap on school division taxation increases?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I do think it's important to respond to some of the criticisms we heard from the member opposite of MNP and the work that they did. Look, they're a highly respected independent accounting firm. They've done a lot of really great work in this province and abroad, and I think Manitobans trust what they have to say when it comes to their assessment over decisions by the last government, and will take their word for it over the word of members from the PC team. Look, they discovered some very concerning decisions that were made by the former government. We look at how did we get to a $2 billion hole? Well, one of the main drivers of that was, again, if we talk about planning and poor planning, and this is what MNP laid out in their work, we can see that they made significant, high-risk decisions, for example, when it came to their budgeting around hydro profits. So somehow, while hydro profit net income tends to hover typically between 100 to 200 million a year, that budget that was released by the former PC government before the election budgeted well over $500 million in hydro profits, which would be well beyond the norm. And then on July 28th, when they reported to Manitobans about the fiscal status, as governments do, what they reported was status quo. Nothing to see here. What's the problem with that? Well, we were months into a summer season where it was clear that we were not going to get anywhere near the type of water that would be needed to support a $550 million hydro net income projection. That's just one example of the kind of decision-making that MNP identified as being concerning. There were also other commitments that were made that were not reflected in the fiscal result reported to Manitobans on July 28th that report speaks to. So there was, clearly outlined by MNP a pattern of decision-making that was fiscally irresponsible and that failed to plan over the long term. Those aren't, that's not accusations that I, as a member of government, is throwing towards the PCs. That's a statement made by an independent accounting firm. And so, we will, again, state here very clearly that we trust in the good work that MNP did. They're an independent firm, and we know that they do good work. And I don't think we should be suggesting otherwise here in the legislature, accusing them of bending the truth to serve one party's interests or another's. That thing that they laid heavily into, again, in that report, which they outlined, was the failure of the last government to plan adequately. And again, I'm glad we're talking about schools here, because that's a perfect example where the last government talked about this idea, this notion that they were going to be building schools, but it was make-believe. There was no dollars attached to it. There were no actual, no real plans of any kind there. And, coming out of that MNP report, they leaned heavily into the importance of suggesting that governments need to make sure that they do that multi-year planning. And we took their advice seriously. And out of that, our team, that was one of the key drivers of why we did multi-year planning. We did work that hasn't been seen in this province for at least 7.5 years before we came in, where we were looking ahead. Genuinely looking at what we thought our cost structure was going to be and planning accordingly. And it was only through that multi-year planning that we were able to come out and develop a plan that is now included within our capital plan itself to build 11 new schools. So you see, it's like government that doesn't plan, no schools being developed. Government that does plan, 11 new schools actually in a capital budget. That's a core distinction that Manitobans can see sort of, it's very clear what they were left with after 7.5 years, and it's very clear that we're doing that work. And that's something we're really proud of, to have listened to that advice that MNP rightfully brought forward about the importance of good fiscal planning, multi-year planning. We took that advice to ensure we didn't repeat the mistakes that the former government had made, mistakes that ended up costing Manitobans in a variety of ways. And we're delivering. And, I think that this is going to continue to be a major focus of ours, to be fiscally responsible while we plan and deliver on commitments made. And that's exactly what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing that for Manitobans.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I think Manitobans through that response can hear loud and clear that there is no cap to taxation under an NDP government, and there is no cap on the amount that school divisions are going to be able to tax homeowners and ratepayers across our province. That's concerning because that also leads into the ability for this government to adequately centrally fund education. If the minister was confident that he and his government have the ability to adequately fund education centrally, then it should be a pretty easy response to say that in the future, there isn't going to be a demand on a financial burden or include a financial burden on property owners as a result of school division taxation. And to be clear, the increase in the deficit that the minister speaks of was a direct result of the NDP deciding to add more than $700 million of spending after they formed government. And the last full fiscal year under the previous PC government, we saw a $373 million surplus. And that was part of the audited public accounts. The minister clarified or tried to state a claim for Myers Norris Penny's report, and I've got the utmost respect for the respected firm Myers Norris Penny within our province. So my question had nothing to do with the capabilities of Myers Norris Penny, just that his government didn't provide Myers Norris Penny with the information to allow them to provide an accurate and full depiction of the state of the finances. And in the limitations of review section of that report, I think I'll read it into the record. It says, further, the findings are limited by the following factors. MNP was only provided access to publicly available information. Access to Cabinet and Treasury Board minutes or confidential briefing material provided to members of Cabinet to support Cabinet or Cabinet decision-making are protected under the Cabinet confidence and were not made available to Myers Norris Penny. It goes on to state that interpretational differences of fiscal responsibility and accountability, the definitions of both fiscal responsibility and fiscal accountability differ in literature, resulting in opportunity for varying interpretations. So the firm that's provided this, and it goes on, I think this is this is public information that this report is accessible to all Manitobans, and I encourage them to review the notes on that report after the comments that the minister had put on the record, because that does raise questions not only for me, but I'm sure many other Manitobans. It was the direction of this new NDP government that decided to run a $2 billion deficit and now a $1.9 billion deficit. So we can clearly see that the deficit continues to grow, and without an answer to my last question, it's clear to see that the minister is unwilling to cap taxation of local school divisions. So fundamentally, if the minister claims that their government is going to adequately centrally fund education, it should have been an easy response. So my question now is regarding the burden on agricultural properties. This is something that was of high importance to our agriculture industry across the province, and what certainty can the minister provide to the agriculture sector and agriculture property owners that taxation won't increase on those properties moving forward.
Member's time has expired. The Honorable Minister of Finance.
Thank you so much, Chair. So, I'm glad to continue talking about the MNP report. I'll talk about that all day. I love it. So I'm excited that the critic continues to dig in there because it's, unfortunately not a lot of great reviews for the work of their team when they were in power for 7.5 years. This is effectively a quote from the MNP report, and I'm happy to provide it verbatim. I don't have it right in front of me, but what it very clearly states is that beyond the decision that I alluded to regarding the failure to disclose the Manitoba Hydro, the reality of the case there, that when they came forward to Manitobans on July 28th with their Q1 update, the report also flags that after Budget 2023 was released, several projects, capital and operating, were approved in year that MNP estimated could be valued at $1.6 billion after a budget was released in an election year, and that was not reported when the team went out to tell Manitobans about where we were at fiscally. So I don't know how much a finer point I can put on that, but that is like a real lack of transparency at best. And I don't need to say what it is at worst. Very concerning to know that before an election, we were effectively not telling Manitobans really where we were. And Manitobans found out the hard way after the election about the reality of our fiscal situation. Again, it's black and white. We saw a number of major expenditures and really bad planning culminate in a $2 billion deficit. And I don't know how it's arguable. This is what public accounts audited by the Auditor General told Manitobans with clarity, that we had a $2 billion hole. And MNP is pretty solid argument as to how we got there, and it has to do with, again, making major commitments after a budget was created, along with really poor planning and the lack of prudence when it came to budgeting for hydro and otherwise, where we really blew away and exaggerated the type of revenue any informed Manitoban may expect us to have when it came to hydro profits. You know, when we talk about, the critic also mentioned, you know, a deficit number, or tried to ascribe a deficit number to us this year, which isn't true, and I need to maybe speak to that just briefly. Very proud, first of all, that we took that $2 billion deficit number that we were left with the following fiscal, building on our first budget. We haven't seen public accounts come out yet, but it's looking like that's going to land at about 1.3. And that means we'll have cut that deficit that we were left with by a third. And then our budget that we just released posted a $794 million proposed deficit. That is the actual number that we posted. Now, one thing I'm very proud of is you know, we've seen in recent discussions that our team has had with institutional investors and credit rating agencies who we met with the privilege of meeting with, not last week, but the week prior. We went out for almost the entire week and spent that time talking about our plan with credit rating agencies, Moody's, DBRS, S&P. These are folks that know a thing or two about government budgeting, and they tend to check the details. And you know, those conversations were very positive conversations, and the overall message we heard was that our plan is credible, and that they feel that the work that we did in multi-year planning to understand our cost structure over the next many years will position us well relative to our target that we set, which is to ensure we deliver a balanced budget in the final year of our mandate. So you know, that $794 million deficit we posted this year, that reflects progress. $2 billion, cut it by a third, $1.3 billion. Again, we'll see where public accounts lands. Hopefully that'll go down even further. This year, $794, more progress. And you know, what the member alluded to shows what he's referenced there was not the deficit number that we printed, but it was our attempt at ensuring that we do what the former government didn't do, which was to be transparent. And what we did is we printed what we identified through support from Deloitte, an analysis that they did about a worst case scenario, a 25% tariff scenario, which thankfully we're not in that environment any longer. But that tariff contingency budget that he alluded to showed, again, the worst case scenario. We're not there. But what we wanted to make sure is we showed Manitobans what they might expect in that environment, and that we're ready to respond to it if needed.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. And I'd like to thank the Minister for that response, although it didn't answer any questions around school taxation on agriculture properties, but we'll try to land on that. Unfortunately for Manitobans, all that they have to go on is track record. So we saw our province's credit rating continually being downgraded under the previous NDP government, and then fortunately for Manitobans, they saw fiscally responsible Conservatives at the helm for 7.5 years, leaving the last full fiscal year with a $373 million surplus, and that was in audited public accounts. The $2 billion deficit was again as a result of the spending that the NDP found to be necessary, but moving forward, like we had said on education, and I'd like to circle back to the burden, potential tax burden on agriculture properties. I hope that what the minister is claiming does have some credibility with us moving forward to seeing future provincial budgets, because Manitobans deserve it. I also have had the opportunity to experience ribbon cutting at schools that were funded and built and opened under the previous PC government. Unfortunately, members of the current NDP government haven't had that experience, and it's a great heartwarming experience that I hope members on his side of the house one day have the opportunity to experience, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be under a significant debt burden, or the next time we have a progressive conservative government in office. So that's unfortunate for members of his government, but like I said, hopefully there is some credibility in those statements that the minister put on the record, and Manitobans can enjoy sensible and credible investments into our education system. But a concern that many Manitobans have, many Manitobans that not only provide economic strength to our province, contributing a significant portion to our GDP, but also feeding Manitobans and people around the world are our agriculture producers. Unfortunately, agriculture producers under the previous NDP tax model had been bearing an unnecessary burden of the tax structure. And that's the model that this government under this Minister of Finance has again adopted, or rekindled, however you'd like to say it. But I'd like the minister to be clear with Manitobans on the future plan. Right now, there hasn't been much talk around education taxation for agriculture properties, other than a current 50% rebate, which was a carryover from our previous PC government. But Manitobans, as they've seen significant increases on their personal property taxes, they're not confident that they won't see the same undue burden on agriculture properties. So I think producers across our province want to hear from the minister what his plan is and the plan moving forward for tax structure, school tax structure on agriculture properties.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chair. So, you know, farmers are no different than any other Manitobans, of course, in that they continue to experience affordability challenges. And I'm really proud that our government has continued to focus on ensuring that we make life more affordable for them as well. And I think about some of the things we did right out of the gate with our fuel tax holiday that we brought in, that was benefited not only, of course, you know, Manitobans driving their Manitobans who live in our urban centers, but it also benefited folks living in rural communities. That includes producers who benefited in a huge way, including on farm gas, from a fuel tax holiday that lasted an entire year. Now, very proud that when we brought in a permanent 10% cut to the fuel tax, that we made sure that we extended that on farm gas as well, because we know that, again, producers continue to face those same challenges when it comes to energy affordability, and our government recognized that. And you know, we're proud to be a government that governs not only for one corner of the province, but for the entire province. And I'm proud that our, you know, our Premier and our Ag Minister continue to remind us of that, and continue to place a lot of focus on rural communities and responding to needs in our rural communities. Speaking about affordability, a thing that we like to, rejoice a lot about in the House is our Crown land freezes. I think about when we were in opposition about, what I heard when I spoke with ranchers and producers about what that meant for them, what it meant for their families, how the increases that the former government were putting on their backs with no warning had come forward with significant increases to their costs of operating. We're going to threaten their ability to continue family farm operations. That there was significant risks that was introducing to the family farm in Manitoba. And I know that, the last government didn't seem to appreciate the impacts. We saw a lot of ranchers organizing in response to that, farmers, producers saying, hey, this is going to be very damaging, including changes that were made in regards to unit transfers. Preventing producers from being able to keep that Crown land in within their business, and to be able to benefit from the investments that they may have made in that Crown land that was contiguous to their property, that made for a significant risk to their retirement plans. They had a piece of Crown land beside their land that they had invested in and that they were reliant upon. That represented part of the value proposition that they had created over many years of working very hard. For some reason, and I've never understood why, the Conservatives just dug in and really went hard at producers, made their lives more expensive, and threatened the family farm. And again, that was a surprise to a lot of us, but I think that reflected a policy that was focused on extracting every single dollar they could from everyone in the province, whether it was farmers or whether it was ratepayers, hydro ratepayers, like where they took a lot of really concerning measures to increase hydro rates in ways that Manitobans will never know if those rate increases were needed because they never went to the Public Utilities Board. We talk about producers and their importance and the work that they do in our province. Our government stands with them, and when we look at the investments we've made in reopening mask offices or opening mask offices, we committed in this budget to opening 2 new mask offices that will help to ensure that 94% of mask clients will be within a 60-minute drive of the closest mask service center. We know that the former government closed a lot of those. We also wanted to make sure that in light of the current environment that producers are in, with facing tariffs not only on one front but 2 fronts with the Chinese tariffs that are being applied on pork and canola, that we reflected that and that we responded to that with significant investments in business risk management programming like agri-stability, agri-insurance, because we're committed to ensuring that producers are taken care of and that we're thinking about the kind of challenges that they face. And not only the challenges that they face, but we're thinking about how do we continue to grow the pie and expand opportunities for them. And I think about the investments that our Premier and our Ag Minister made in regards to GATE, which is a very exciting, very forward-looking investment by our government to help create more opportunities for farmers in Manitoba to bring their incredible products to market, not only here, but also beyond.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. And unfortunately for Manitoba ag producers that do have significant concern about the agriculture burden that a change in the school tax structure would have on their bottom line, this minister wasn't able to provide any clarification. And what the minister was able to do is, I think, take some speaking notes from the Minister of Agriculture, which I'd like to take this time to clarify some of those, starting with the gas tax holiday that they brought forward. It was a result of amendments brought forward by opposition that expanded the delivery of the gas tax holiday. And these were recommendations to make the legislation fair and equitable for more Manitobans. And that did include a small effect on agriculture producers, but I would hope that the minister doesn't feel that that was a substantial impact for Manitoba agriculture producers, because fuel tax didn't exist on farm fuels previously, and it only had on gasoline. So as a producer, and knowing that the minister is not an agriculture producer, so may not be aware, but on a farm, the only gasoline engines are farmers' lawnmower and maybe his kid's dirt bike. So the impact of fuel tax holiday for agriculture producers was limited at best. So like I said, the amendment brought forward clarified the fuel tax holiday and made it more fair for more Manitobans, but did not have a direct impact on agriculture producers. What did have a significant impact on agriculture producers is the change to the school division tax structure that the previous PC government had brought forward, something that I had asked the minister clarification on, if there would be a continued 50% rebate, or if that would be expanded for agriculture producers or eliminated. And I think the lack of answer is going to be concerning for Manitoba producers. To add to that, again, a speaking note from the Ag Minister that we've heard time and time again in question period is Crown land lease rates and a freeze to those Crown land lease rates. Just so that the minister knows, and hopefully he can pass that along to the agriculture minister, just how few farmers function with Crown leased land. It affects a small portion of mainly ranchers in the Interlake and the Dauphin constituency. So if the minister wants to represent the concerns of agriculture producers across the province, opening 2 more Mask offices to provide services that agriculture producers now do together with their agronomists, Crown land lease rate freeze, and the gas tax holiday don't even amount to a fraction of the relief that the change to the property tax structure under the previous PC government had provided. So again, if the minister can put on the record clarification on what the tax structure for school taxation looks like for agriculture producers and property owners moving forward this year and moving forward.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to continue speaking about the important work that we're doing to support our producers and to respond to the risks and the challenges that they're facing right now. And, you know, it probably won't surprise the member to hear that right now, the biggest worry that we're hearing and that our Ag Minister hears on the ground is regarding tariffs and the impacts of those tariffs. That's what's on the mind of producers in Manitoba. And, you know, when we talk to producers and we listen to their concerns, I think one of the biggest questions they have is, how is it possible that the individual that's leading the PC party thanked Donald Trump for tariffs? And we can laugh about it, but, you know, last week in the House, one of the things that shook me, I know it probably shocked, well, I don't know how many folks on the other side of the House, but on our side of the House, I think we were kind of blown away to hear that the leader of the official opposition doubled down when it came to talking about, you know, what he said in that podcast where he thanked Trump for the tariffs. You know, he went on to clarify that he was thanking him for his interference in a sovereign country, which really wasn't much in the way of a clarification. It was, I think, even more concerning for the average person to hear. And I would wonder what, you know, the producers that the member speaks with would say about that when he opens up those conversations about the fact that the leader of his party was thanking Donald Trump for interfering in our country's sovereignty. That's not even a question. That's what we heard, all of us heard him say in the House last week when he again doubled down on his thank you to an individual that has created untold amounts of uncertainty and worry for producers and their families. That's got to be a heavy burden, I would imagine, for members of the PC caucus that operate in rural communities who have to explain why the leader of their party is thanking Trump for making threats against their livelihoods. Man, that's a tough thing to explain. I don't know how they do that or how they rationalize that. It doesn't seem as though the leader of the opposition actually believes that there's even anything wrong with what he did. He seems to think it's fine to invite interference by Trump, maybe even other world leaders, in our sovereignty if it helps him to achieve what he thinks is the right outcome. That's scary for the average Manitoban to contemplate. And, you know, in this environment, I'll say our government doesn't thank Donald Trump. We say no thanks to the chaos that he's created for Canadians, frankly, for people around the world, and the massive economic uncertainty he's created for so many people who worry about their jobs, their businesses, our communities. It's just still a shock to me. So, you know, we're here talking about what producers care about. Well, right now they're worried about tariffs. And I think if, you know, the member opposite really wants to talk about, you know, what our government is doing when it comes to ag producers, well, we're responding to their biggest worry, which is the tariffs that Donald Trump is threatening on them and the tariffs that China has applied to them. We're responding directly to their core concerns, whether it's through increased investments in business risk management programs to make sure that if this year turns out to be a challenging year for them, that they know that they're good because their provincial government has had their back. We've thought about the real challenges that they're facing, and we've dealt with them and responded to that with real investments. That we've responded to real concerns they had about reduced access to mask offices, where very real services are being provided by the provincial government. The last government cut a bunch of those offices. They made it harder for farmers and producers to access those incredibly important services. We're responding to that. Those are the things that I know when I speak with our incredible Minister of Agriculture, what he's hearing, the worries he's responding to, those are the worries. And what has our government done? We've responded to those concerns. And that is exactly the work that I think producers want to see a provincial government doing. We're moving ahead in keeping their costs more affordable by responding to the Crown lease increases the former government brought in. We're reopening new mask offices that the former government slashed and cut because they didn't think they were needed. And on the absolute single biggest concern of the day, we are responding to those, and we are certainly not thanking the person who's threatening their livelihoods.
The honourable member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. It's clear to see to Manitoba ag producers, and I don't want to dwell on agriculture in our time here in estimates, so we'll move on here shortly. But it's clear to see under 3 attempts to get clarification on the tax structure for agriculture properties and school taxation, that the minister wasn't able to give any clarity or confirmation that there wouldn't be an increase to agriculture property owners. But we did hear that instead of a commitment to property taxes, and a reduction or limitation of where property taxes are able to go. Instead of that, the minister said that in lieu of property tax increases for all agriculture producers, agriculture producers are getting 2 more Mask offices. The commitment to freezing Crownland dues, and a reduction of 10% of gas tax on gasoline. So that is in lieu of a limitation on agriculture property taxes. So the minister had also mentioned that the real concern wasn't property taxes for ag producers, but instead it was the threat of tariffs, which I don't disagree. It's a real, it's an immediate, it's a current threat on the feasibility of agriculture production in our province. So I thank the minister for leading us into this question, and hopefully as a result of the leading answer for the previous question, the minister will have a lot to put on the record for Manitoba agriculture producers, because there's a lack of commitment to increase in property tax increases. So I'd like to hear from the minister what type of stability is the Manitoba NDP government able to provide agriculture producers in light of a looming trade war, or a current trade war in some aspects, and if ag producers continue to see pressure from canola tariffs, other commodity tariffs, that's going to either reduce demand on our Manitoba Canadian products or reduce the price of those commodities. What exactly is this government and their budget able to provide Manitoba ag producers? Because we all know that ag stability is funding in partnership with the federal government, and it's a program that's administered by the provincial government but funded by the federal government. We also know that ag stability, if we were actually caught up in a trade war that saw a complete collapse in commodity trade for products like potatoes, canola, and many of the other products, including beef and pork, that are heavily dependent on foreign trade. What are the means that this minister has, and what would the programs look like to support ag producers in the event of complete collapse of those markets?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Chair. The critic is talking about tax structures and impacts on producers, and I'll remind him that tariffs are a giant tax on producers as well. And the proposed tax that his leader is supporting is a 25% tax by Trump on producers, or in the case of China, 100% on canola meal and oil, and of 25% on pork. So we know that those are new taxes that are threatening and are impacting producers. And on the American side, of course, we know that the leader of the opposition seems to be thankful in some bizarre respect for those tariffs, those new taxes being applied to farmers in Manitoba. We know that this is having a serious impact, of course, a dangerous impact on our agriculture producers, and we're fighting to stop the imposition of those tariffs. We're here to support, and we've got a very great relationship with producers in Manitoba. We've got a great relationship with CAP, and I know our minister responsible for ag has worked hard to foster trusting, good quality relationships with producers. And I think that line of communication and that trusted relationship that we've built has resulted in us having a clear line of sight on the priorities from the community, one of which, of course, was ensuring that we're responding to the threats of the moment, which are these tariffs. And this budget allocated, again, for business risk management, $141 million to support that. I did hear the member opposite suggest that that's federally funded. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's not federally funded entirely. It's a 60-40 split. So the province of Manitoba does carry a significant cost associated with providing that assurance to our farmers. It's a very big investment, and as I said, it's to the tune of about $141 million, not insignificant by any stretch. Beyond providing that support, one thing I want to flag is we're facing a two-front trade war here, as the member probably is aware. And that's the message that we bring to the federal government when we have our discussions, that they need to ensure that Manitoba, as well as other Western provinces that have significant levels of ag production, that that those challenges that producers are experiencing right now are recognized, and that Ottawa doesn't forget about this corner of the country. And we work really hard to ensure that our interests are raised at every opportunity, and that the federal government knows that this is a two-front trade war and it is having a significant impact right here in our province. And of course, we recognize that that two-front trade war is also facing folks on our eastern Canadian seaboard as well, who are having their fisheries be impacted by that same threat. So we're really bringing that message and ensuring that, again, the feds are aware that we need to see supports directed to help our farmers, help our producers to weather those challenges, and that we're going to stand with them in doing that work. And I think that's exemplified in that $141 million investment. Further to the important investments we've made to help farmers through these challenges, and our continued focus on ensuring that Ottawa understands the risks that are being created. The tariff contingency budget we brought forward, I think, was important in that it showed not only are we ready for a worst case scenario, and here's what we understand, again, according to expert support through Deloitte, that we can expect as sort of the bigger picture impact, but we also were explicit in that commitment, in that tariff contingency budget, that we would support farmers and producers. And we specifically allocated, in the event of that worst case scenario, dollars to support farmers. Again, showing that our government doesn't end at the perimeter. We're a government that's focused on taking care of all Manitobans. So, you take into account the fact that we reflected their interests in that budget. You take into account that we've put dollars aside for business risk management, real money, big money, to make sure that we reflect the challenge of the moment. You could see that ours is a government focused on, again, taking care of the people who make food in our province and who take care of all of us. And that we're doing the opposite of what the members opposite wanted to do, which was to thank Donald Trump for imposing new taxes that are going to create massive challenges for the beating heart of our provincial economy. We will never thank Donald Trump for placing taxes on Manitobans. We know that these are significant risks to their livelihoods, And we're going to continue to invest as required to make sure that they can navigate these challenges, and we'll do that together.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
You, Honourable Chair. I'll make my question short to give us the opportunity to ask some more important questions. The Minister had led to my next question that we're seeing a $1.1 billion budget in their tariff budget, but yet no actual concrete commitments as to what that's going to provide for agriculture producers, since we were talking of that. The Minister talks of a commitment, but no clear examples. We see that things as simple as the PST Commission were cut from this government's budgets for small business owners who collect the taxation that drives our government services, and we don't see any commitment to a cap on the school division rates for homeowners, regular families across our province. So I think that it's clear that this government is failing us on all fronts. The homeowners, the regular Manitoban that works hard to feed their families and provide a good home for their children and the families. Ag producers who feed Manitobans and Canadians and the businesses that are generating the taxes. So could the minister, one simple way would be to commit to something that made a difference to regular Manitobans, and that was indexing of personal income tax under our previous government. So let's think, theoretically, that one day the NDP can deliver a balanced budget. I don't know if that is possible, but in the event of that happening, would the minister commit to reinstating indexing of the personal income tax?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I'll make the most of our time here. So maybe I'll speak to the first part of the question, which is about the tariff contingency budget. And again, as I outlined earlier, that tariff contingency budget was printed because we wanted to be transparent with Manitobans about what the worst case tariff scenario would look like if it were to be applied. And that was the context that we were operating within when we were developing the budget. We were facing a real 25% across the board tariff environment. And so I think it showed prudence, in fact, many layers of prudence, that we went out to get clarity from a trusted independent accounting firm, Deloitte, who had a very sophisticated model to help us understand what the potential impacts may be, so that we could go out and prepare accordingly and make sure that Manitobans had the benefit of knowing where things may go. And that outlined significant need for new investments to support businesses, as I outlined earlier, and I'm proud of this, that our government didn't leave ag producers to the side of this. We highlighted that right in that tariff contingency budget, that we thought about them. We thought about the impacts that they're experiencing, and we highlighted that in that contingency budget. And then beyond that, we showed, again, further layers of fiscal prudence by proposing in the event that we needed to go there, a significant lift to a revenue contingency budget, which we set in our core budget at $200 million, which is above and beyond what is normally held in place. And the reason we did that is because there is, of course, uncertainty in the environment we're in. So, just to wrap, in the final seconds, I'll say we've planned prudently, we've planned transparently. That's why Manitobans sent us here. And I think the results are showing. And I'm proud to keep doing the work together with this team.
The hour being 5 p.m. Committee rise.